Good afternoon, everyone. This is the IDG Chit Chat Live. We have a wonderful assortment of people here today, our usual gang, and we are the In-Depth Genealogist. And tonight we're going to talk about Genealogy Roadshow. My name is Jennifer Alford, and I am publisher with the In-Depth Genealogist. Joining me is Terry O'Connell, Executive Director. And we have several guests. We have Sherry Hudson-Passy, Mary Kurcharati, Melissa Barker, and Valerie Eichler-Lair. Thank you, ladies, for joining me.
Great to be here.
Sure.
So this week we had kind of a recap and follow-up episode, which was pretty interesting. Each of the three hosts were able to share some of their favorite stories that they've worked on the show, and we also got to do some follow-ups, and I think it was a lot of fun. So if you haven't watched it yet, go over to PBS and watch it online. Otherwise, we're going to spoil it for you. So let's go ahead and kick things off with the very first story that was the gentleman, Tim, and his mother. It was in LA, and her story, I can't remember all the details, but I'm sure Valerie has excellent notes. But she basically But basically, go ahead, Valerie.
Well, she didn't know hardly anything about the family.
Right.
And especially how far back. She didn't even know names and so forth. So this was, like she said at the end, that this was a total life changer for her. So, but they were told of a family tradition, and so that's what got started.
Well, they had a picture too of her mother with a last name that she didn't recognize.
Oh,
so she didn't realize that her mother had been married before, and then it came out that her mother and her father were, as she put, stepping out the first husband.
And I cracked up when she says, "That's great. That's fine with me because then I wouldn't be here."
Yeah, she was hilarious.
She was so sweet, so fun. Yes.
And it was so sweet that her son kind of set this thing up for her, and I thought that was very touching.
Yeah, that was good.
I think there's a great amount of people out there, like in the younger bracket, that started for the older generation. I know in all my research, my grandmother was always my go-to person. If I found something new or cool, I would call and be like, "Oh, guess what I found?" She'd be like, or I would answer. She would answer the phone and be like, "What'd you find now?" Because I used to call her out, like, you didn't tell me this, and she's like, "Oh, I forgot all about that." Like, they were a small rural town, West Virginia. Everything was in the newspapers, but they were too poor to get the newspapers. So the stories that I was finding were like mind-boggling to her because she never knew they made the paper.
Oh, wow.
She always said to me, up until her death, is just, please find more about my daddy's people. I just want to know about my daddy's people. Oh. And I was able to give her a little bit. So I think that it's very, very common that you see these people that are starting it because, I couldn't see my grandmother online trying to research.
Another thing, too, another aspect of that Terry's talking about is the fact that they didn't talk about things. In fact, not only did they not talk about it, but they were like, we don't talk about things like this with the family or in the community. And so not only, like Terry was talking about, her grandmother didn't know about the newspaper, but they just didn't talk about it. And so when it's not talked about, it's not passed on. And her grandmother probably didn't hear things from her parents.
Right.
And so that's what we're here to do, is to dig all that up.
Very true.
They continued with that. Like, I found my grandmother's, her wedding certificate, and I didn't say anything to her while she was alive. Like, I didn't give her a hard time, but she got married at 16. And my grandfather was already in his 20s.
Oh, wow.
So after she passed, I said to her sister, I'm like, "Aunt Mary," I'm like, "what was Granny thinking, letting Grandma get married so young?" She looked at me and she laughed. She goes, "Honey, she had to get married." I didn't like look and calculate. But that makes you go back to look and calculate everything.
Yeah, no doubt.
I've been surprised by a few of those calculations.
Well, it wasn't until I was much older that I realized that my mom remarried, that she was already pregnant with my sister. And I think it was probably a good 10 years ago, and my sister is 33 now, that I finally put two and two together and understood then. I'm like, oh, okay. It wasn't a big deal to me, but, to my sister it probably mattered. It probably bothered her, but, they've been, my mom and my stepdad have been happily married for 34 years now, so I don't think it's really an issue.
Well, I have a friend whose son is getting married, and he wanted pictures from her wedding, and she was about a month and a half away from having them. So she had to, she would show me the pictures she pulled out. It's like, yeah, well, you got the ones where the bouquet hid the evidence, huh?
Strategically place that bouquet.
Yes, exactly.
Well,
but I agree with. Oh, go ahead.
Even growing up, like you never question anything. You're told like this is it, and blah blah blah. You go with your whatever. My parents divorced when I was infant. Maybe I was a year old. I have a half sister who is a year younger than me, a year and 2-3 months, and they lied about their marriage date our whole lives, so that she didn't know she was born out of wedlock. But it was okay that I felt that I knew my dad left my mother right away, like infant, and
Right.
They didn't you. We're going to cover this one life. We're not going to think through how it's going. It just.
Yeah.
I think it made them feel better. I think it made them feel better at the time. They aren't thinking ahead to the future about who's going to find out what. I think it just it worked, and it made them feel better, and they could move on.
Exactly.
Right.
I didn't know anybody would be digging into all that. Be like, you lied to me my whole life.
Well, as they say, the first baby can come anytime, but the second one takes 9 months.
I really liked. Go ahead, Val.
Well, I have to share because I cracked up. When I first entered all of my data, I started out with PAF, Personal Ancestral File, with the LDS Church, and I started that within 3 or 4 or 5 months of starting this journey, and it wasn't until I switched to a different software to do my first book, and that particular software brought up, like most of them do nowadays, but it brought up all these, error messages, or, 9 months hadn't passed since the baby was born, and this was my mother-in-law, and I was like, and I didn't calculate or anything. I was just entering data until that, came about. I was like, okay, Mom. No. But things that happen nowadays happened 100 years ago, and this lady, Tim's mom, was just a firecracker. She, I'm glad they did, and just different things about the whole segment. She was just thrilled with not knowing, and like Terry said. I would ask my mom, well, didn't your grandfather, say anything? Oh, no. He in German, because he forced everybody to speak German, he would say, we don't talk about anything. We don't talk about the homeland, nothing. And so it's like, oh, gosh.
Well, and culturally, like I found in Germany with some of my German relatives, it's not a big deal to have a baby first and then get married. It's just... they wouldn't necessarily have to get married.
But with the Germans, I've been told, and I don't know if it's true because I've not really dug deep into the history and whatever. But I've been told that it was very common for them to have a child out of wedlock because the man needed to see that she was fertile.
Okay.
I've got tons of German, but I haven't gotten into that part of it or heard that part before. But
I mean, I'll be specific. My German's the first child was born out of wedlock. The second child was born 3 months after the wedding.
So we knew everything worked okay.
Everything was good.
maybe my full-fledged German dad said, "Okay, there's way too much fertility here. I'm getting out." Me being the fifth, is there going to be any more? No, no.
I thought it was really neat about Tim talking about his doctor seeing him on
yes.
the
Oh
show
my gosh.
and seeing a mole. I just thought that was amazing.
And the show saved my life.
Yes.
Genealogy
saved his life.
Yeah, I definitely paused the video at that point and turned to my husband and said, "Oh my gosh, guess this," and told him the story, and he was like, "Wow, that's pretty strange." I'm like, "Yeah, I was lucky."
There was something else that happened on too. I've seen it before, and it wasn't really.
It was a show off of Home and Guard television.
Yeah.
Husband and wife that flip houses.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was some lady. It wasn't a doctor, but it was a lady that saw a lump on his throat, and it was was it a goiter?
Thyroid cancer.
Yeah, and it saved his life.
Oh my goodness.
It's amazing.
I had to stop the show there, and then when he said, his mom had passed since the show was on, and told of the family tradition about, they would ring a bell, but they didn't have a bell. But they heard a bell, and even now, I had to stop the show. It was like, stop the plane, and like, oh my gosh. Because I don't know whether to believe in that, and Mary's just encouraged him to go on, and talk more about it, and it's like, oh yeah, I believe. My grandma's talked to me many times. I used to sleep.
The days leading up to my grandmother's death, she was having in-depth conversations with my grandfather, who died in the 90s. She was talking about her mom chasing her with a wooden spoon, and I would laugh. I'm like, don't let her catch you. Keep running. Keep moving. I mean,
he did say that she had said, you need to get your father to come. He needs to come get me. And that was the night she passed away.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, and it was really sweet, I thought, that Mary Tedesco had such a bond with them because she lost her mom, who had dementia, just about...
Her grandma.
Yes.
Her grandma. Okay, just about
her grandmother.
A month and a half after the show aired, and so she just said how much she reminded her of her grandma.
I think she kind of had that everyone's grandma in her.
Yeah.
As I'm watching it, I laugh at, like, I don't care attitude. Stepping out. So I totally felt like the same thing. She just was a reminder of,
I think so.
Yeah.
Definitely was a touching. It was touching the first time. It was even more touching to have the recap and show, that she was at peace. She got to know what she wanted to know before she left.
Yeah.
And he said, you gave my mom her family, her story, and then the show saved my life. I mean, so.
Right. And I told Mary, I said, God, my eyes were filled with tears. I couldn't even take my notes. It's like I had to stop it 3 times. It was. And then when Mary says, I'm speechless, it's like, oh my gosh, to catch a genealogist speechless? It's like, what,
All right, well, let's move on to the next segment. On that one, Josh was talking with a young lady, Sarah Jones, who was from Nashville. And she didn't know her dad or her dad's side of the family. And as a result of the show, she ended up getting to meet one of her cousins. Right. And so it was really, it was touching because she talked a lot about identity and how she didn't, she felt like something was missing or she didn't quite connect with her family. And for me, that was something that, I've been very fortunate in my own family. I'm very close to everyone, but to see someone who, after they have found out more about their family, makes that connection and suddenly feels more themselves. To me, that's a pretty awesome thing that genealogy and family history research can do.
I absolutely wholeheartedly agree.
Yep.
It's funny the things that you find that ring true with your family. So, like for Sarah, all those pictures of her dad with the surfboards, and she's like, "Oh, I have pictures like that of me." They had a lot of things in common. I think my first big connection like that in my research is on my O'Connell line. My grandfather, my great grandfather, and I believe maybe the second great grandfather all worked in paper mills in New York and Canada. My first big girl job was for a packaging corporation.
Cool.
It was just too weird.
Yes.
So I think there's a lot of those coincidences are out there, or maybe there's something behind you that's pushing things and find out.
Right.
Well, she now felt a part of something.
Yeah.
And it really touched me that she said, as a follow-up, that she then met her aunt, and now she's thinking of moving to California so she can be close with everybody. And I thought, oh, I so hope she makes that move. I don't know where she lives now, but I hope she makes that move, even if it's for a short amount of time. It's not, forever.
That's going to be a hard decision, though, to leave that comfort. I mean, it's great to go out and make those connections, but I can't. That leaving that comfort in the family base you already have.
Right.
Scary.
Oh, but you grow a lot when you move. I don't live much near my family, and it's been really good for me to grow.
And hopefully her mother's side of the family that she does know will support that.
Yeah.
And that could bring up some issues too,
That would be cool.
But that's why I said, even if it's if she's watching this, even if it's for just a short time, 3 years or 5 years, or just to try it, to go for that,
Definitely. Anybody else want to add anything on this story? No. Okay. So then the next one was Kenyatta talking with a lady who was a mystery writer who discovered that her mother was African American. And I can't even fathom all the emotions she must have gone through.
I know.
But the follow-up was awesome.
Yeah.
It was.
The fact that she had 2 relatives get in touch with her the very next day via email. I mean, that is fantastic.
Yes. I mean, I can't imagine how she was feeling, like you were saying, when she was sitting there and these documents were being shown to her, and everything that she knew about her mother was totally false, and that means things that you know about yourself are false, and and that she was able to go through with that, have that aired, and be willing to have that raw emotion aired, I think says a lot about her. And then to come back and discuss afterwards, what that means and how she feels like that she had helped other people
I love that part.
Well, that she helped bring them together.
Yeah, the family not only she brought together, but she said she also had many emails from people who were mixed race mixed race families, and that her experience helped them. So I thought that was wonderful.
That's why I think these shows like this really help not only genealogists and everything, but just people. You know, I mean, if they run across the show and watch it, it's like a mixed race person, and that that they're maybe struggling, and they see the story, and it gives them hope or it gives them encouragement. That is just great.
Yeah.
Well, and I had to stop that episode to pause it because I got goosebumps and teary-eyed when she said, I don't know about spiritual and stuff, and it's like, well, yeah. Yeah.
And how many boxes of tissues did you go through, Valerie?
I
How many hours did it take you to get through the show?
Oh, you guys are too much. But I did it. It was like 2 boxes and 2 hours later. And then, and I still get goosebumps and teary-eyed because we got to have a party. And it was a year to the date that her mom had passed away. I'm going, oh my gosh, again, doo-doo.
Well, Valerie, let me ask you something.
Yes, ma'am?
Let me ask you something. I mean, I think we all get emotional in different parts of these, but do you feel like that you get emotional because you're emotional with the people in the show, or do you get emotional because you're thinking of your own family stories and things like that? I tend to find myself kind of going back and forth with that.
It's both, because
yeah.
with me it's both, but more importantly is because one of the reasons they said, which was right after this, they each, Josh, Kenyatta, and Mary gave each a reason why we do genealogy. And the reason I got started is because I didn't know my dad. And whenever we mentioned it, Mom had nothing good to say about him at all. And she was adopted. So she didn't know really where she came from. And I thought, well, I don't want my son to grow up that way, and I want to feel like I'm a part of something. And I could understand how Sarah felt.
Yeah.
You can really relate. Yeah.
And how whenever I got, really, I get all, in a tizzy, I go back to the genealogy because it calms me, even though it might be upsetting. And that's why this year, between who do you think you are, and especially long lost family, that's why this year is my goal to find out more about my mom. And get into the old photographs and so forth. And of course, everybody that knows me knows too that I cry at a grand opening of 7-Eleven. I do. I put myself, that's why my clients just love me, because I get myself right into their family too, and right into these shows and every segment. And people might think, oh, she's just saying that. No, I really do get goosebumps, and I really do start crying like I almost just did now. And so
you have a big heart, Valerie. You can see that.
Well, thank you. We're right up here a lot of times. They say, oh, you got to be tough skinned. Like, oh, I doubt it. But thank you.
Not possible.
And thanks for letting me share.
Well,
We
always.
appreciate that you feel comfortable to share that.
Yeah.
A lot of people who are emotional, they try and hide it, or they don't explain why they are emotional. For me, I'm a sympathetic crier. And if I see someone crying, I start crying because I'm too empathetic, I think. Not that that's necessarily a bad thing, but
loving, caring.
Yeah. Wednesday night, I was in a marketing class trying to learn some strategies for the in-depth genealogist. And the teacher showed a video, and it was about this blind gentleman who was begging, and it was like a 2-minute video. And at the end, they did this thing, and I was almost in tears in the middle of class, and I'm going, oh my gosh, this is so embarrassing.
Very, very powerful.
But so I messaged it to Terry right away, and she's like, oh my God, same reaction. And I was like, okay, it's not just me.
Oh no. And I say, let me tell you, I cried during Days of Our Lives.
cry during Hallmark commercials.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Well, I am the same.
Well, and then when each of them, said, Josh had said his, to an understanding, and then, Kenyatta said her, brings ancestors' life, which is true. I mean, how many you all have thought that it's more than just names and dates on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
You're putting flesh on the bones. You're putting that story together, even if you don't have that many documents and so forth. And then what Mary said, when she walked in her ancestors' footsteps in her hometown. Well, now me being in that same position, having moved back to where my ancestors, from my parents back to my great-great-grandparents, and even though it's for only a little while, it's not a permanent situation that right now, but at least to be here now is like, oh my gosh, it really is, because they were there. They walked there. And so all of those reasons, and then some, some do it for medical reasons, some do it to join a lineage society. Some, to me, if someone doesn't have anything to do, well, have I got a how do you?
You're funny.
But now I'm going to say, no, you can't do that. To give you experience here, I have this whole big, huge drawer full of photos that need to be scanned.
There you go. There you go.
I want to make sure you really know.
Well, I've gotten to do some things. I sailed on the tall ship Bounty, and spent a week on it, and sailed from the Netherlands to Edinburgh. And to be able to be on a tall ship like my ancestors were. And I also was engineer for a day on a steam locomotive because I have railroad ancestors. And so I just really wanted to do what they did. The next one I want to do is there's I don't hike or walk or whatever it is, but it's like a covered wagon experience for 2 weeks where you can walk with in a wagon train.
Oh my gosh.
So that goes from Oregon to Washington, and I really want to do that trip.
Oh my! And they'll have a microwave, right? I only want to do part.
But I think that says a lot. So, when you start your genealogy as a beginning genealogist, it's all about the dates. They born, married, died. Born, married, died.
Right.
And then as you move up, it's all about the dash, right? It's all about the in-between. Those dates are grand to have, but let's put some meat on the bones and find out who these people are. Going with what Mary said, and doing the things that your ancestors did, when we were in Ireland, I walked to the front of that church where they were married, where they baptized their babies. There's no feeling in the world that you can equate with that. There is just nothing.
Yeah.
It's just so special.
Is it a horrible thing, though, that I've gotten to that point now that I want to know what they had for breakfast?
I don't think you'll find that documented.
I know it. Wow. They had on the Lair side. We've got the Lair cookbook. Grandma's recipes, who were her mom's recipes. So that's
Wonderful.
been so. So there's breakfast and dinner and supper, and so I'll let you have some of those recipes because it's part of the Midwest.
Close, right?
Yeah.
That's funny. So let's see, what else have we got to talk about? Anything more on our lady who found out her mother was black? Anything more on that? Okay.
Amazing.
So then after the three hosts shared, what inspired them to do genealogy, it went on with several other flashback type scenes from the previous episodes. And I don't know about you guys, but I was disappointed there weren't more of the after the
Updates. Yeah.
update.
Mhm.
It totally threw me off. I'm like watching, I'm like, okay, when are they going to give the update? And then they just go on to a different story.
Yeah, me too.
I was disappointed.
I would rather have seen fewer of the flashbacks with follow-up on them. Yeah, I was, and if they weren't gonna do follow-up on all of them, I wish they would have separated out the ones where they did the follow-up and do one with follow-up and then one or two without and then another follow-up. I think it kind of, to me, I didn't really like the pacing of the show because of that.
I agree, Mary. I agree with you.
Wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It just totally threw me off. Like the last 15 minutes, of course, I was eating my dinner and a little distracted, but I just kind of had it going in the background. I wasn't really paying a lot of attention
Right.
because
You
I
weren't
was like,
paying
well, I've seen this before.
Right.
It was recent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't really, I didn't care about that. I mean, I really cared about the thing, I think, when I originally saw the episode, last season or whenever it was. But in this most recent episode, it just didn't really grip me. Probably because I had seen it before, and so I needed a little bit more of, well, tell me more about these people and how it affected them.
Hmm.
Right.
I see what you all were saying, and I now agree that it should have been split up in between because, of continuity or not continuity, but the flow of things. But in their defense, I like
Here comes Valerie to the defense.
time out. No. Backfield in motion. No. Anyway, sorry, different hobby. But I knew it was their favorite, so I was really curious to see which of the
What
episodes
their favorites were.
were, and
Mhm.
I could see. I could see why Josh chose John for the Philippines in this particular season because it was really touching to see Josh, and then his excitement. And then I cracked up when he says, well, in Genealogy, we like to poke around a little bit. And I'm saying, poke around a little bit? Heck, we like to explore a lot.
We like to use shovels. We use shovels and we dig.
Not poke around a little bit. Yeah. But so I guess knowing that was, part of the favorites, I really enjoyed it, and especially the last one with the house history. It's like,
Oh,
yeah.
I loved that. I loved the house history one. Yes.
So, but yeah,
So
they could have split it up. But yeah, the house history is like, oh my gosh. And then the young gal, I guess that was her daughter. She turns, she goes, a single mom with 6 kids and buying the house we wouldn't even have. So,
Yeah.
I loved when she said, "Oh, Josh, what did she do?" She bought that house. That was so cute. Oh, Josh.
Too funny.
I thought that was really cute.
But think about the time frame and think about how much money she probably got and what it took for her to buy that house.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
because we've all looked at those pensions. We didn't get very much
Yes.
money.
No.
mm-mm.
No.
I mean, some cases it's like, $3 or $4 a month is about all my Southern ancestors got. They didn't get very much money at all.
Well, that's because they were on the wrong side, honey.
Exactly, I know.
Mary.
Look,
We lost,
I got a bunch of Confederates too.
It's okay.
That's the only reason why you can say that, Terry, is because you like Confederates too.
I have more Confederates than I have Union soldiers, so I'm saying it in jest, obviously.
Obviously.
What I picked up though, and probably didn't see it the first time, is because I was busy writing notes. But did you see?
Not you.
Yeah, no. Did you see the stack when he opened up the leatherette
That
folder?
file, that pension file.
It's like a half inch. Like,
Yes.
holy moly!
You
don't
want to
get
reach
that in the
the television?
Yeah, we
grab that
don't
stack.
get that in the South. We get maybe one piece of paper in the South. That's about all we get in a pension
But
file.
I like those because they're all stamped in red. Rebel Records.
Ah.
Just like that stamp.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So see, you guys got some good,
We did.
fun out of them. So. Well, and then two was didn't they do one? I'd have to go back and look. I don't remember, but I think they did a favorites on Who Do You Think You Are one season. They talked about which their favorites were, but I can't remember that for sure. Again, if I don't write it down, that's why I write it down, like you said, that part of your brain that makes you retain.
I wish that they would take and do not a favorites, but a follow-up.
Yes.
Very important historical events. And I'm going to go straight to the Irish, sorry. But like Rosie O'Donnell walking the workhouse in Ireland.
Yes.
I want to know what that did in her mind about her, what did it change for her? There's quite a few of them that it would be great to see somebody, if you
Maybe they'd come on and tell us.
They could Skype.
Let's invite him on. Let's invite him on Chit Chat. Maybe they'll.
Yeah.
Here.
Sure.
Well, one of the things I always wanted to know with Who Do You Think You Are and with Genealogy Roadshow is, I want to ask everyone, did they continue to do research?
Right.
Did they continue on? And if they have, what else have they found out?
What have they found?
Yeah.
That would be fascinating.
It would be. To see, some of these. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry. I wonder. It's interesting that maybe we should follow up with Mr. Lambert at NEGHS to see if there's any follow through afterwards with some of the people that have been there. I know some of them have only been there for the reveal, but the research probably started there. Sarah Jessica Parker, she got her long scroll that, Dave promised I'm going to get when I get there. I don't know whose family's going to be on it, but
yeah.
Cool. So I just wonder if any of them have reached out and have been like, okay, I want to know more. Where do I go? We should have Dave back on.
Yeah.
Definitely. All right, ladies. Well, we've been on for, I think, about 45 minutes now. Anything else anybody wants to add?
Did you hear the new announcement today?
Who do you think you are? Oh, today?
Yesterday.
Or
I
yesterday?
think it was just,
Okay.
yeah.
Who do you think
renewed,
you are? And Long Lost Family have both been picked up for the next season.
Yay.
Yes.
Yay!
So I was going to say something about Who Do You Think You Are? I did go to Austin about 2 weeks ago, and because that was where I didn't go there because of the Aisha Tyler episode, but I did go to the place where
You did.
I did, but the business is closed. So I think that's why she didn't go in.
That's why she couldn't get in.
Yeah. But I recognized the building. It was like, oh, it's closed. So,
That's neat.
yeah, it was fun to get to go there. And
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, ladies. Well, we're getting to the end of our time.
Thank you.
you all for joining us. Greatly
Thank
appreciate
you.
it. And as always, you're all very entertaining.
Sometimes way too much.
That's quite all right. So thank you all for joining us. Thank you to our audience for tuning in. And if you would like to add any comments, please comment below. Feel free to email us at editor@theinDepthGenealogist.com or visit our website at www.theinDepthGenealogist.com. Friend us on Facebook, like us on Facebook, tweet us, all of the above. We're out there. Find us. We'd love to get to know you and help you on your genealogy journey. So have a good night and good luck going in depth with all of your ancestors. Good night.
Night.
Good night.